Okay, we're ready to begin our butterflies in the garden. This was painted on a gallery wrap canvas. It's about a 5.5-inch canvas, or maybe it's 5-inch, and it was painted with Global's acrylics, and I'm going to be demonstrating it on a piece of Masonite panel. The palette we're going to be using is Cerulean, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Blue, Pine Green, Yellow Oxide, Hansa Yellow. This is Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, Black and White. And I believe the only color that's not in here is the Cerulean. This is not in the 12-piece starter set, and also Burnt Sienna. The other colors are in the 12-piece starter set. Okay, we are going to begin. I have taken a Masonite panel board and I painted it with one coat of cerulean and white, just a pale blue, gave it a quick coat, dried it, and put a pattern on. So I have a little bit of a line drawing so I know where I'm going. So we're going to begin with our sky area. You can see that's all nice and light, and it's very slip-slappy. There's a lot of movement in it. So taking your, about a number 1/2-inch filbert, I'm taking some cerulean and white, and I am going to just brush mix a little bit of that together, and I'm going to paint this area in. I like to paint the background in so that I can work into something wet. I'm going to go around my butterfly, but I'm going to go over the flowers because I'm going to be, and leaves, I'm working on them right away. So I'll go over the flowers. Maybe I'll leave a little portion of the leaf so I know where it is. Nah, I think I'm going to go over all that. So the pattern will be covered. But if you look carefully, you can still see your pattern below. The background area is a slip-slappy motion. I can still see my graphite through. I pressed hard on the first time I put it on, and that lets me have a little bit of a help to find my shapes in my pattern. And this is cerulean. I'm just adding a little color. We want a wet background. And you'll pick up a little bit of white. We'll lighten this area, giving that a little bit of light. And we're going to moisten all the way down into the flowers. Now, if you want to see the flowers a little more, you can take a little bit of extender, and that will thin the paint a little bit, just so that you can see your lines. Another trick I do when I'm going to do a painting that's got a lot of lines on it and I need to follow is before I start, I take my liner brush and some thinned burnt umber, and I reline all my graphite. Then when I put my background color or any of my other colors, I don't lose all of those shapes. And I'm hoping I can still see through enough that I'm just going to be able to sketch it right on there and I can see it. Okay, now I'm going to add highlight to that background. I really want it light in this corner. That will help illuminate our butterfly a little bit. Can have little touches of lights, but not as much on that side. And it's also good to just pick up a little bit of cerulean, and we'll darken a few places as well. We will go back with cerulean in any of the areas that we need to have some little spots. If they don't get dark enough, we can always add some extra paint at the end. Okay, so that's my wet background. It's got extender in the paint, so this keeps it wet while I'm working. So my flowers and leaves can be blended into that. All right, I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. I'm going to go into my filbert, and I'm going to put on I think I'll put on this one leaf over here. I'm using pine green mixed with a little bit of yellow oxide. And my leaf shape is pretty much right in this area. You can see right here, it's kind of leaning off the canvas. So I'm going to paint this shape in. We all know what a leaf looks like. It's nice and loose and casual. And then I'll add a little bit more pine green plus a little bit of phthalo blue. And I'll get a little bit of a darker value right in here. This will be underneath. Some of those blue flowers will lean right over on top of this. So I'm just going to darken the base of that and a little bit on the side. And streaks, oops, excuse me, there goes my paper towel. Streaks in the leaf is a nice thing. It gives a nice look to the leaf. And like I said, we're going to cover over some of that, so I'm not going to worry about that now. Maybe I'll put in this leaf down here. Okay, it's going to be kind of that shape. And I'm going to lay in the paint. It's going to be lighter on this side and a little darker on this side. But I'm going to pick up, I'm not picking up enough paint to cover, so I've got to get more paint on my brush. It's amazing how fast the paint dries in the summertime with air conditioning on. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more paint. And I'll pull the color through. Don't want to darken this one up a little bit. And I'm going to add some highlights. I'm going to use the yellow oxide and a little bit of white. There's still a little bit of green in my brush, so it's going to turn it to a light green. I'll put a little highlight, maybe a little on this one, and we'll pick up just a little bit on the tip here, and we'll lighten a little bit on these tips here. And that's just stroking it in, kind of loose and painterly, a little brush sketchy. Now if you want to pull a vein in that, you can use the back side of your brush, put a little vein in it, scratches it out a little bit. If you don't like it, you can simmer it down a little if it gets carried away. But I did want to get a little bit of dark in this one. You can play with these, but I'm just going to do a little quick version of this. Alright, now I'm going to move over to my blue flowers. And I like a mixture of my phthalo blue and my ultramarine blue. It reminds me of Prussian blue. And I'm going to put in some darks. These are going to be pretty good darks. We'll be adding white to this shortly, but in the beginning I start out. Now it's very loose. If you know a hydrangea bush, the petals are all clumped together. So I'm just going to maybe make a few petals that you could see, a couple of shapes. But then they're in a mass, so you don't get to see too much. So I'm pulling a few shapes. We'll add some lights, we'll add some darks, and hopefully this will look somewhat like a little bit of flowers. Put a little ones out on the side, a little one over here. And this is just a cluster, so you don't have to think too much about that. Now when it hits the white and blue background, see how it lightens it. It was starting out as a very, very dark blue. Now I'd lost that dark, so I can go back, picking up my dark again, and a little more paint. See, now I can come back in and add a few more darks. Just here and there. No real rhyme or reason in this. They're kind of splotchy here and there. Okay, we'll put in some darks. A few extra darks. Now we'll come back and we'll make a few details on them just to make them look pretty like a flower. Okay, well, I'm gonna picking a little white, add a few highlights. You can pull one petal light, or you can put it on the edge and pull it in. And I'll be right back and we'll finish up our leaves.